Welcome to another deep dive. We got a request to explore consciousness and purpose, and someone handed us a copy of Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth.
Oh yeah, that's quite the deep dive.
It is a journey into spiritual awakening and freedom from the ego.
So are you ready to free yourself from the ego?
I think so. That's what we're here to find out.
Right.
We're going to unpack some key ideas.
Some ideas, yeah.
I've skimmed through the book. I'm excited to dive in deeper with you.
So one of the things that really struck me as I was reading A New Earth was this idea that flowers played a pivotal role in the evolution of human consciousness.
Flowers. That's not what I expected.
I know, right?
When I think of consciousness, I think of, like deep philosophical debates.
Yeah.
And, meditation and psychedelics.
But Tolle, he suggests that flowers were likely the first things that humans appreciated for their sheer beauty, entirely separate from any survival need. He says, actually I have the quote right here. Flowers may have been the first things that humans valued for their aesthetic appearance alone, without any utilitarian purpose.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like beauty, pure beauty.
Pure appreciation.
Was this kind of like a leap?
A leap beyond the practical?
Yeah.
We're no longer just looking at a flower and thinking, can I eat it? Or is it going to hurt me?
Right.
It's like, wow, that's beautiful.
It's like flowers revealed a whole new dimension of experience to us.
Exactly. And it's a dimension that connects us to something deeper. Think about it. When you truly appreciate the beauty of a flower, your mind quiets down.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about its usefulness or labeling it.
You're just present with it.
You're simply present with it.
Like that moment in Zen Buddhism where the Buddha holds up a flower in silence.
Yes.
And only one monk, Mahakasyapa, understands.
Exactly, precisely.
And he smiles.
He smiles.
That's like the origin of Zen Buddhism.
And that smile of recognition, of shared understanding beyond words, represents a shift in consciousness. And Tolle suggests that flowers, like crystals or birdsong, can trigger this shift in us. Their ethereal beauty can help us access a space within ourselves that's beyond the everyday, beyond the mental chatter.
Wow, that's a powerful thought.
It is, isn't it?
So next time I see a flower, I'm going to try to experience it without all the mental labels like Tolle suggests.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll experience a glimpse of that deeper awareness.
It's a beautiful practice, and it ties directly into Tolle's core argument about the ego.
Okay.
He suggests that the human mind, with all its dysfunction, is actually the source of much of our suffering.
Okay, I have to admit, that sounds a bit intense.
It does. It does.
I'm intrigued.
He even calls it a history of madness.
History of madness. Okay.
Yeah. But it's not about negativity.
Okay.
Think about it. The 20th century, with its world wars, genocides, all of that.
Gruesome.
Tolle argues that this level of violence is a stark example of the egoic mind at work, driven by fear, greed,
thirst for power.
All hallmarks of the ego.
So you're saying that the ego is more than just like arrogance or selfishness.
Right.
It's actually this destructive force that impacts the world on a massive scale.
Exactly. And recognizing this pattern, as Tolle urges us to do, is the first step toward evolving beyond it.
Okay.
We have to understand the problem to find a solution.
That makes sense. So how does this ego thing even work? How do we even begin to recognize it?
Well, Tolle breaks down the ego into two main aspects.
Okay.
First, there's the content. All those specific thoughts and beliefs we carry, shaped by our upbringing, culture, our experiences.
It's like that story Tolle tells about the elderly woman.
Oh, yeah.
Who's devastated over losing her ring.
Losing her ring.
And it's not just about the ring's value.
Right.
It's because it represented a part of her identity.
Exactly.
She was so attached to it.
And that brings us to the second aspect. The ego's structure. This is the underlying mechanism of identifying with things. Possessions, roles, beliefs, and letting them define us
So the woman clung to the ring
Yes.
as part of her sense of self.
As part of her sense of self, so it felt like losing a piece of herself.
Yeah, it's not just the thought, I've lost my ring.
Right.
It's that deeper identification, I am someone who has this ring and now I'm less without it.
Precisely. And this raises a challenging question for all of us. What are you identifying with?
Ooh.
Your job, your possessions, your social media followers. What if those things were gone tomorrow?
Yeah.
Would your sense of self crumble?
That's a really powerful question to consider.
It is.
It makes you think about what's truly important.
What's truly important, yeah. And in addition to this identification, the ego has a whole arsenal of tricks and deceptions to keep us trapped.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears. Spill the tea on the ego's sneaky tactics.
All right. Well, have you ever noticed how some people are obsessed with being right, even about trivial things?
Well, absolutely. They have to win every argument.
Yes.
Even if it's just about, like, what someone said on a reality TV show or something. Like, who cares?
For the ego, facts become less about truth and more about feeling superior.
Oh.
It's all about winning and boosting that sense of self-importance.
It's like the ego needs to constantly compare and contrast itself with others.
It does. It does.
And that makes me think of another tactic, holding on to grievances.
Yes.
I know people who seem addicted to replaying past hurts.
Yes.
Like they're collecting evidence for why they're a victim.
That's another classic ego move.
Yeah.
Clinging to resentment keeps us trapped in this state of against.
Yeah.
And it contaminates other areas of our lives.
And let's not forget judgment.
Oh, yes. Judgment.
It seems like it's become a national sport to find fault with others.
That's the ego getting its fix of superiority.
Yeah.
It thrives on comparison and putting others down.
And I can see how fame and roles play into this too.
Yes.
People get so caught up in external validation, social media likes, or playing a part that they lose sight of who they truly are.
It's a trap. We mistake those external things for our true selves.
Right.
But the key takeaway here is that these patterns are often unconscious. We don't even realize we're doing it.
Right.
Awareness is the first step to breaking free.
It's like those optical illusions where you see one thing until someone points out the other image hidden within it.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
So we've talked about flowers as gateways to a deeper awareness.
Yes.
And we've explored the ego's structure and its sneaky tactics.
We have.
But where does purpose fit into all of this? How do we find our own purpose amidst all this ego drama?
That's the million-dollar question. We'll have to unpack that in part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, stay tuned.
Picking up where we left off, amidst all this talk about the ego and its pitfalls,
Yeah.
Tolle assures us that we do have a purpose.
Oh, good.
Even two.
Good.
An inner and an outer purpose.
Okay, that's encouraging. But what's the difference between inner and outer purpose? They sound pretty abstract.
Yeah, so let's start with the inner purpose.
Okay.
Imagine it like this. It's about aligning with the present moment and connecting with your true being. It's that essence of who you are, beyond all the thoughts, emotions, and roles that the ego tries to cling to.
So it's not about, like, achieving something specific.
Right.
They're about cultivating a way of being.
A way of being.
That sounds a lot like what we were talking about with flowers, just being present without all the mental labels.
You got it. And that inner connection then flows into your outer purpose.
Okay.
Which is simply the activities you engage in, the things you do in the world.
Right.
But here's the catch. That outer purpose can either be driven by ego or by awareness.
Oh, I see.
So it's not what you do,
Uh-huh.
but why you do it.
Mm.
Like two people could have the same job,
Right.
but one is doing it out of, ego-driven ambition,
Okay.
and the other is coming from a place of genuine service and joy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to tell the difference, is it?
It's not,
Like, how do you tell?
it's tricky.
Yeah.
Well, take the story of Stephen Hawking.
Okay.
Here's a man facing immense physical challenges.
Right.
Yet he found incredible joy and purpose in his work as a physicist.
Mm-hmm.
He transcended the limitations of his form and tapped into something much deeper.
Yeah, that's such an inspiring example. It really shows how outer purpose can be an expression of that inner alignment.
It is, and it all comes back to awareness. Tolle talks about choosing presence over getting lost in thought.
Okay.
Choosing to listen to, say, the mountain stream instead of your mental chatter.
Right.
It's a constant practice, a shift in focus from the external noise to the internal stillness.
It reminds me of like mindfulness meditation, like focusing on your breath.
Yes.
And noticing thoughts without judgment.
Very similar.
Yeah.
And it's something you can experiment with in everyday life.
Right.
Try, say, washing the dishes with complete presence.
Oh, wow.
Or walking the dog with full awareness.
Yeah.
See how it shifts your experience.
Oh, I love that. So we can access this inner purpose, this awareness, even in the most mundane activities.
Absolutely. Now, Tolle takes this a step further and says that the ego doesn't just create suffering on an individual level.
Okay.
It plays out on a collective level, too.
You mean like how entire societies can get caught up in ego-driven conflicts?
Precisely. He says the ego creates a sense of separation of us versus them.
Right.
And it fuels conflict, prejudice, and ultimately all forms of violence. He even argues that the war mentality itself
Oh, wow.
is a product of this egoic dysfunction.
So all those wars we wage, the war on drugs, the war on terror,
Right.
they're actually perpetuating the problem because they're based on that same egoic thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Yeah.
Until we address the root cause, the egoic need for separation and control, these conflicts will continue to arise.
That's a really sobering thought.
It is.
But if the ego thrives on separation, does that mean we have to like completely eradicate individuality to escape this trap?
That's a great question. Now, Tolle isn't suggesting we become mindless drones or lose our unique personalities.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing that our true selves, our being, is actually interconnected. It's like we're all individual expressions of a single source.
Like waves on the ocean.
Yes.
Each wave is unique, but they're all part of the same body of water.
Perfect analogy. And when we operate from this understanding of interconnectedness, our actions shift. We're less likely to act from a place of fear, greed, or the need to dominate.
Right.
Because we recognize that harming another ultimately harms ourselves.
That makes so much sense. It's like the ego is constantly trying to build walls,
Right.
while awareness helps us see that we're all part of the same structure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of structures, Tolle also points out how the ego loves to get caught up in roles and external validation. It's like we're constantly trying to prove ourselves, to gain recognition, to fit into some mold that society has created.
Oh, I know that game all too well.
I know, right?
Social media is like a breeding ground for ego-driven validation seeking.
It is. And the ego loves it because it thrives on comparison, competition, and feeling superior.
Right.
But it's a game we can never win because the ego is never satisfied.
Right.
It always wants more.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly. And it keeps us from connecting with what truly matters.
Yeah.
Our inner purpose, our true being.
So how do we escape this ego trap? How do we access that deeper awareness and align with our true purpose?
Tolle talks about the importance of presence, of being fully present in the moment.
Okay.
It's about shifting our focus from the external to the internal, from the past and the future to the, it's not easy.
I imagine not.
But it's a practice.
It's like we have to train our minds to be present.
Yes.
Like a muscle we need to exercise.
You got it. It's about becoming aware of our thoughts and emotions without judgment, without getting caught up in their stories.
Right.
We create space for the ego to dissolve and for our true selves to emerge.
And that's where things get really interesting, right?
It is, yes.
Because Tolle suggests that as we become more present, we tap into a deeper intelligence, what he calls universal intelligence.
Exactly. It's like plugging into a power source that's beyond the limitations of the ego.
Wow.
It's a source of creativity, inspiration, and limitless potential.
So it's not about becoming someone else.
Right.
What about becoming more fully ourselves, more connected to this universal intelligence?
You nailed it. It's about realizing that we already have everything we need within us. We just have to learn to tap into it.
Okay, so we've got inner and outer purpose.
Yes.
We've got the ego's sneaky tactics, and we've got this idea of universal intelligence. But how do we translate all of this into action?
Right.
How do we actually live this?
That's where right action comes in.
Okay.
It's about aligning our inner and outer purposes, about acting from a place of awareness and connection with the whole.
So it's still about what we do in the world.
Yes.
But it's driven by a different source.
By awareness rather than ego.
Right.
You got it.
Okay.
Right action arises from stillness, from a place of inner peace. It's not driven by fear or the need to control.
So it's about being responsive to the needs of the situation rather than reacting from, our own limited perspective.
Precisely. And when we act from this place, our actions have a different quality.
Okay.
They're aligned with the flow of life,
Yes.
with the unfolding of the universe.
So it's like surrendering to a higher purpose?
Exactly. And that surrender brings a sense of peace, of ease,
Right.
of flow.
Hmm.
It's the opposite of struggling, forcing, or trying to control everything.
So it's about trusting the process.
Yes.
Trusting that this universal intelligence is guiding us.
Trusting, yeah.
This is starting to sound a lot like what some spiritual traditions call faith or grace.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Tolle might not use those exact words,
Mm.
but the essence is the same.
Right.
And speaking of essence, he also emphasizes the importance of finding joy in what we do.
I love that. It's like, if we're not enjoying it, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
He suggests that when we're fully present, we can find joy in even the simplest tasks. It's about appreciating the present moment,
Okay.
the beauty of life unfolding right before our eyes.
So it's not about waiting for things to be perfect before we can be happy.
Right.
It's about finding happiness in the midst of it all.
Precisely. And that joy becomes a source of empowerment. It fuels our actions, inspires our creativity, and connects us with our true purpose.
Right.
We radiate light from the inside out.
Yeah, I'm really starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Good.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but I feel like there's still so much to explore.
There is. And there's one more key concept I want to touch on before we wrap up this part of the deep dive.
Okay.
The idea of the outgoing and return movements in life.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. I'm all ears.
Think of it this way. The outgoing movement is the expansion phase of life.
Oh.
It's about growth, learning, accumulating experiences,
Okay.
achieving goals, building a career, creating a family.
Right.
It's when we're reaching out into the world, exploring all it has to offer.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now in life.
Okay.
Building my career, figuring things out.
Yeah.
Lots of outward movement.
Lots of outward movement.
Yeah.
And then there's the return movement.
Okay.
When things start to contract, simplify, it can happen naturally through aging,
Right.
or it can be triggered by loss, illness, or life challenges.
Okay.
It's when we start turning inward,
Right.
letting go of the things that no longer serve us.
So it's like the first half of life is about building and the second half is about refining, going deeper.
You could see it that way.
Yeah.
And this return movement
Yeah.
has profound spiritual potential. It's a chance to disidentify from the ego and the things we've clung to for so long.
It's like a homecoming.
Yes.
Coming back to our true selves.
Beautiful way to put it. Now, Tolle makes an interesting observation about how our culture tends to devalue aging and this return movement.
Oh, yeah. Because we're so obsessed with youth,
Yes.
productivity, achievement.
Exactly. We're afraid of getting old, slowing down, losing our grip.
Right.
But Tolle invites us to reframe this perspective
Okay.
and see aging as a time of deepening, of wisdom, of spiritual growth.
So it's about embracing the full cycle of life.
Yes.
The ebb and flow of expansion and contraction.
Exactly. And here's the really important part. We don't have to wait for old age to experience this return movement.
Oh, okay.
We can choose to surrender, to let go at any moment.
That's powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a choice available to us in every moment.
Right.
It's about shifting our focus from what we're trying to get to what we are already being.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. This is all so incredibly profound.
I know. It's a lot, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, it's also a lot to take in.
It is.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of all the wisdom packed into a new earth.
It's true.
Where do we even go from here?
That's a great question and a perfect place to pause for now.
Oh, okay.
We'll pick up with some more insights and practical applications in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, welcome back. I'm still processing all the insights we unpacked in the last part of our deep dive into a new earth.
It is a lot to take in.
It is. There's so much to ponder.
And there's more.
There's more.
There's more.
Oh, no.
Like any good journey,
Yeah.
there are unexpected twists and turns.
Okay. All right.
And one of those is the concept of the pain body, which we haven't explored yet.
Pain body. That sounds a bit ominous. What exactly is that?
Okay, so imagine it as this accumulation of emotional pain that we carry within us, almost like a shadow self. It feeds on negativity, it feeds on drama, and it can lie dormant for years, then suddenly get triggered by an event or even just a thought.
So it's not just about like my current emotions.
Right.
It's like all that unresolved pain from my past.
Exactly.
Old wounds, heartbreaks, childhood traumas.
All of that.
All that stuff is still lurking in there somewhere.
Lurking in there somewhere. And it's not just personal pain. Tolle talks about how we also carry the collective pain of humanity's suffering. Wars, oppression, violence.
Wow.
It all leaves an energetic imprint.
So it's like we're all walking around with these invisible backpacks full of pain and trauma.
Full of pain.
No wonder the world can feel so heavy sometimes.
And here's the thing. The pain body wants to survive. It thrives on negativity.
Oh, no.
So it'll try to keep us stuck in those patterns of suffering.
That's starting to sound a bit scary, like some kind of energy vampire feeding off our misery.
Yeah, but it's not about getting spooked.
Okay.
It's about becoming aware. Most of us aren't even conscious of the pain body.
Right.
We just think we're having a bad day or blame others for our unhappiness.
So if we're not even aware of it, how do we deal with it? Do we need like some kind of exorcism?
Thankfully, no. The key, as with most things Tolle talks about, is awareness.
Okay.
We have to become conscious of the pain body when it arises.
Right.
We need to observe it without judgment, without getting caught up in its stories.
So instead of identifying with the pain, we simply acknowledge it. Like, oh, hello, pain body. I see you there trying to stir up some drama.
You got it. By simply observing it, we create space between ourselves and the pain body. We take away its power.
Right.
It's like shining a light on a monster lurking in the shadows.
Yes.
Suddenly it's not so scary anymore.
And as the pain body loses its grip, we create space for healing, peace, and joy.
Right.
It's like finally taking off that heavy backpack and feeling lighter, freer.
Precisely. And remember, the pain body can also manifest on a collective level. It can fuel wars, violence, and oppression, keeping us trapped in these cycles of suffering.
So it's not just about healing our own personal pain bodies,
right,
but contributing to the healing of, this collective pain body as well.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Tolle's vision of a new earth.
Okay.
A new way of being that's free from the ego's grip.
Right.
It's about creating a world where we recognize our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
And act from a place of love, not fear.
Okay, that all sounds amazing, but where do we even begin? How do we as individuals contribute to such a massive shift?
It starts with each one of us making a conscious choice.
Okay.
To awaken, to become more aware,
right,
to live from a place of presence and love. It might sound simple, but it's a profound act.
So it's like we're each responsible for tending our own little garden of consciousness.
Yeah.
And as more and more gardens bloom, the whole landscape starts to transform.
Beautiful analogy. And as we cultivate this inner transformation, we also start to question the systems and structures that perpetuate suffering.
You mean things like greed, exploitation, inequality?
All of that.
The things that feed the collective pain body.
Exactly. It's about becoming conscious of the systems we participate in and asking ourselves how we can contribute to a more just and compassionate world.
So it's about both inner and outer work.
Yes.
Personal transformation and social action.
They go hand in hand. As Tolle puts it, awareness is the greatest agent for change.
Okay, so we're tending our inner gardens, challenging systems of injustice, and becoming more aware.
Yes.
But there's one thing I'm still grappling with, this idea of finding our true purpose. It all feels a bit elusive.
It can, especially when we're bombarded with all these external messages about success and achievement.
Right.
But Tolle reminds us that our true purpose isn't something we find out there,
right,
but something we connect with in here.
So it's less about finding the right job or the perfect relationship and more about cultivating a state of being.
A way of aligning with our deepest selves.
Exactly. And when we're in alignment with our true selves, that joy, that fulfillment, it naturally flows into our actions, our relationships, our creative endeavors. Yes. We radiate light from the inside out.
You got it. And it's not a fixed destination, but a constant unfolding.
So it's not about figuring it all out,
right,
but about staying curious, staying open to the journey.
Precisely.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into a new earth.
It does.
We've covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground.
From flowers as gateways to awareness to the ego's sneaky tactics.
Yes.
From the pain body to the vision of a new earth. From the importance of presence to finding our true purpose.
We've covered it all.
We have.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
It has. And I have a feeling this is just the beginning for me.
It is, yeah.
I'm definitely going to be revisiting a new earth.
Oh, good.
And exploring these ideas further.
Excellent. And remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
So true. Keep those hearts open, those minds curious, and those deep dives going. Thanks for joining us.